Hello, welcome to the video. I'm joined here with Terry, a very good friend, who's going to tell us about his story, his testimony. It's an incredible story. It's an inspirational story that I found very inspirational from hearing it. Looking forward to hearing it. Thank you very much for being here, Terry.
Thank you for doing that for me.
Thank you.
Anyway, we're just going to go around what happened in me in life and how I was born, and I was born into a large family, which wasn't a large family at the time because people, in the 40s and 50s had large families. It was parcel of life, And I was lucky really because I was the middle one. I was the youngest boy, but older than my three sisters, so a funny position to be in. But I had a good life and went to school I was born in Islington, but we moved from, my parents thought it was a better area to move to Hackney and Homerton, which obviously they was very proud of, and then I went to school there, and I always wanted to be a train driver. I mean, this may sound odd, but that's what children did then, and I was not an exception with that. Never made it, but I did make it into engineering, which I really did enjoy engineering, and I always have done. It's been, part of being, I say, a bit creative in a way. I know it sounds awful, to be boastful, but I can think round things, and work out logic how to work things, and what they work like and whatever else. So I was lucky in that respect, and so I was. Everybody went to Sunday school in them days. It was part and parcel of, you went to Sunday school, you got your penny for your bit to go in the box, and right. You went off to Sunday school in the afternoon, and we had a lovely church. It was a guy that ran it was a Mr. Middleton, and he was a Yorkshireman, and he was a lovely, lovely guy. I mean, him and his wife, Mrs. Middleton, they ran the church really lovely, and we had a good company. We had a very big youth, and we just enjoyed our life really. I mean, it was part and parcel of going to church. We would decorate the church. If it needed painting, we would paint it. If we would do this, that and the other. Life was simple then, and it just didn't think of inflation or anything like that. And anyway, one of the bits that I used to do was we used to have a holiday every year. It used to run a summer camp, and it used to be in a place called Ford. It was near Littlehampton, and we had these bell tents, and then also we had bell tent, medical centre, little small medical centre, which was nothing much, but just in case anybody got hurt, and somewhere to eat, which was a big hall, which with the kitchen and everything. And each day we had our own little bit. One day we would be doing the kitchen, one we'd be doing this, that, we had a certain set out of order of way things were done, and who was in charge of the tent. Like, you had the head boy, like, and you were sort of headed to sort of be head boy because you were a bit more could,
of course,
sort of tell what to do. Anyway, I was there, and it was really, really it was nice because it was run on very, very Christian lines. We had an enjoyable time. We had a little bit of service in the morning. We would always say prayers in the morning, and then and in the afternoon we'd play all afternoon, and then in the evening have an evening meal, and then maybe have something else go on. We'd have football matches and whatever else went on. And there were some very impressive guys there, and I came to know the Lord then through different people that I met and brought to understand, and what they wanted to do and become a Christian. And I gave my life, and it sounds like gave my life, and that sounds awful in a way, but you don't think of it that way at that time. But I just did, and I enjoyed being, with the church and helping with the church and doing things. We had a very big youth. Well, it was like there was the olders, which were 18, which were very old, and there was the youngers, which were about 14 to 16, which was our group. And we were like, we had a very, very good time. We used to work a lot together and go out and do things, and we had I really enjoyed my life, and then I went to work. I was that was a time which was quite difficult. First of all, being a Christian, because people want to do things which you don't want to do, and you're a bit hard to say, well, no, I don't do that, and that is very, very difficult, believe me.
Yeah.
I remember one of the chaps I was working with once said to me, I'm old head on young shoulders. Whether that was because of my Christian upbringing, I don't know, but obviously I did think about things a lot, and I did try to live a very Christian life, and I was very lucky, because we had the opportunity of doing that. As life went on and I went through work, I did my apprenticeship, got my indentures, and then I went on to I actually worked for a very small company where I was the only qualified engineer, and I was teaching all these other people what to do, and it was quite interesting, because we were working on things which and it was me that was teaching everybody what to do, which was, I was very lucky, to have that knowledge and showing people how to work with the machinery and everything else. Anyway, I carried on through life, and we just carried on as normal, went to church, had a nice, easy life. And I met my wife, who was a Christian, and came from a similar background, except she lived in Winchmore Hill and I lived in Hackney, and Winchmore and Hackney were like, a lot of difference in life. You could imagine, this is like, people were like bankers and everything else where my wife lived, and I was like engineer, and that wasn't like Anyway, but I settled down, and we had a family, had 3 children, and we took them to church, brought them up in the church ways and everything else. And then life started to deteriorate a little bit as far as Christianity concerned, because I got a house, I got 3 children, holidays, working mortgage, all the other things that come into operation, and you start, I say backsliding, but you don't keep up the things that you would normally have done. You still go to church occasionally, not as much as you used to, and you don't probably mix in with the same people as you used to, but you still go to church and you still believe in church. It's never been a problem, but I wasn't acting as such as the same as when I was at church. And I'm saying so church makes a difference, but it obviously does, because I think it makes you more caring when you see what's happening with other people, and you realise how fortunate you are to be in a position to see these things happening and to help people. I've always tried to be helpful, whatever I've done. I'd never, as eventually I was working for engineering, and I got a couple of times made redundant, and I thought, I don't like this. I'm working for different people. I'm putting in central heating for them, although I'm not a central heating engineer, but I was learning it because I did hydraulics and pneumatics, and I knew a little bit about work and everything else, so I sort of grandfathered into it. Then my wife said, look, you can't keep doing this. If you want to work, you've got to go and get go to night school and get your not degree, your city and guilds in plumbing, or you're going to be illegal and you're going to be in trouble if you're not careful. So I did 3 years of, that was hard, 3 years of three times a week, going up to Hackney from where I lived in Winchmore Hill to night time to do 2 hours, and then keeping up with the homework and various other things, and all the other people where I was all younger than me, because they were just still engineering, like still starting off in their life, and I was a lot older.
Right.
But I gained a lot. Well, I suppose I've always had sort of a little bit of confidence or bluffing, if I will always, if I don't know about it, I'll go and get a book out and read about it, and learn that way, we had a, it was very interesting, we had a library that came round, although we were in Winchmore Hill, we had a library that came out on, with a like a coach with all the library books in it. And the librarian said to my wife, I don't know, your husband always gets engineering books out, does he do anything else? But so I learnt by reading books and doing the going to night school, and I say it was hard work. It wasn't. It was good in a way, because I think you can never stop learning. I've never ever felt that you could stop learning. There's always something interesting each day, even just turning to television on and discovering something on television, and you find out the different things. I never knew that, or why, what did we say? But I think that my life I've never been out of Christianity, but I was never running quite as parallel with it as when I was younger. I deviated off and I backslid, and it was hard in a way. I shouldn't have done. I know I shouldn't have done, but it's easy. It's much more difficult to keep going when you've got so many other interests that you've got to. Your family, they're going to university, they're doing work. You're bringing them up. Get money to take them on holiday or whatever else that comes up. Your house needs something done, and it's only the weekend when you've got to do it, and therefore where you had normally lots of time before, you've got no time at all now, because you're either working or being called out to do a job by somebody on a Saturday and Sunday, and so you slide backwards, and it's very easy to do, and not so it's right, no way is it right, but it's so easy to do, and I say regret, I suppose I do regret it, because I think I could have done a lot more with my life if I hadn't done, and I wished I hadn't done, but life is not like that. You don't have a giant's, once it's gone, it's gone. You move on, and you've got to move on to something different. And in a strange way, it was my daughter, Karen, who died of cancer, and my wife, who died, who brought me back into Christianity, or not say Christianity, back into the church, and to learn what I've done, or I've backslidden and not lived the life I really should have done, and done things. I suppose I did things I shouldn't have done. I don't know what they were. Well, not evil things, but things which I wouldn't have thought before about doing, and say. Because when you're working for yourself, you're working Saturday and Sunday. It doesn't matter what. 7 days a week is every day. You're working, because that's part of working for yourself. You don't have an opportunity. You've got to do bills. You've got to do other things. You've got to keep the maintenance of the house. You've got to do the garden. I mean, I love my garden, and I still do. I wished I could do it more now, but unfortunately. Had 2 car accidents, which has led to me being a bit injured at the moment. Hopefully that they'll sort it out in the next few months, and then maybe get back to some normality where we can do things back to normal. And that's what I'm hoping for in the next few months, that I can. I would like to do help more in the church if I could, but I'm feeling my way at the moment. I'm not going to press anything or do anything until I'm invited to do it, rather than, because I feel that, that is the best way of doing things, is to be asked rather than you pushing yourself and doing it, and that's, I've always been, that's the way I live my life. I've always liked to ask to do things rather than, pushing myself, because I'm not a pushy person. Sometimes I am, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to say I'm not, but most of the time I'm not. And I wouldn't push anybody if I could help it. I like to people live their life the not correct way. That's not the right words to use. But it's easier to go backwards than it is to go sometimes forward, because you don't realise what you're doing. And that's basically what happens in life. You don't realise you're gradually sliding backwards, and you don't realise how you're sliding backwards until you lose. I won't go to church this week because there's something. I've got to do something. And then I won't go next week because there's something else. And I won't go next week because there's something else. And it progresses until in fact, in the end, you're not going at all, because you've got too many other things that you're doing, and you haven't got time. And you still live a Christian life. I don't mean you can't live a Christian life, and you still, you always try to do good by people and help people. And I've never ever thought of ever being, always. When we moved into my house where we lived now, even now, I've been there 40 odd years now. When we moved in, me and my wife were probably the youngest people living in that road, because they were more or less not retired, but a few of them were retired, and we looked after them. It's funny, each person that was all ill or something else happened, me and Hazel were there. We'd, we'll do this, we'll do that, and it was like the Christianity part of us coming out, it was part of what we did, and we would look after her. And the funny thing is, now I've got a very good friend across the road, Robert, who's now looking after me, because when he was younger, I looked after his parents. And there is it seems to have gone a circle, and the things he's doing my garden for me. Without him, I'd have to move, I'll be honest with you. I think I'd have to move, definitely. But at the moment, I'm just about managing to keep things together and living there. But there will be a time when I won't be able to live there any longer. That's a fact, it's just getting a lot more difficult as time goes on, and as I say, I'm getting older, and it's getting more difficult to do things which I would normally just think about doing, and I can't do them anymore. But I think you can always. I've never found it difficult to help people. I've never found it a hardship. I've always found it easy to talk to people and enjoy company and. To talk to people, I'm a bit of a chatterbox, I must be honest. If I'm anywhere, I'll start talking to anybody, no matter who they are. I often get told off for it, but that's the way you are, you've got a certain personality, and that has always been within me. But when I say, it's difficult. No, is it difficult? Yes and no. It's difficult to live a different life to what everybody else thinks you should be living. But it's easy to live that life if you feel it's the right thing you should be doing. And so in that respect, I've never found it difficult. But at the same time, when people are pushing you away from it, it is difficult. And it's hard, you've got so many commitments, you're looking after your children, you're looking after, I had my wife who was unfortunately a lot of times not very well. She suffered with a lot of unfortunate illnesses, but even for all of that, she's was wonderful because she just kept going. She didn't let it stop her. She just kept always living, to the best of her ability. And I was very, very lucky to have met her, and I'm very lucky to have 3 lovely children. I mean, and the fact that I lost my eldest daughter, who was a Christian, who actually used to come to this church as well, funny enough, lived just around the corner here, is why I got to know this church, and I got to know Ben, and I got to know the people in it. And I'm very, hopefully I will carry on, and I won't go do that same thing again. I will manage to keep my feet on the ground and not backslide again. But having said that, believe me, it's easier to go back than it is sometimes to go forward. You never realise how difficult sometimes it can be. And hopefully I will keep going and I won't do it again. But I think I won't. I think I've learnt my lesson. I'm older now, and I think that being older is a little bit more mature and a little bit more understanding and a little bit more things that go on, and it's good. I mean, and this church, I think, is a lovely church. I mean, it really has got some nice people in it, and people striving to help people and do things which, I find is very, very, very good. Nobody knows what is around the corner, and another thing I've always said in my life, I've always said this, is life's too short. If you've got something happening, it's too short. Don't go to bed with an argument, don't go to bed with anything that's wrong in a day, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and you can regret that the next day if you're not careful. And I feel that, that sometimes I do regret what I've done in life, and I think everybody does to a certain extent. But hopefully I will carry on. Hopefully keep going with my life as it is at the moment. Not particularly as it is, but in the Christian way of life, and trying to help people more than I used to, and being more generous in a way, because if I can help someone, I will help them. I won't just stand there and watch them go down the tube, if you like what I mean. I will try and do my best to do anything I can. And it's good to see, I think this church we're very fortunate, very fortunate. We've got some really good people. I'm going to leave because I'll need that cup of coffee, and I'm sorry that I'm
Not at all, but thank you so much, Terry, for telling us about your story, some of the events that have happened that have changed your life, and your journey with faith, with Christianity. It's been great to get to know you over the past year or two.
It's been good to get to know you, actually, and I don't know how you're going to progress in what you're going to do in life, but I would imagine you might carry on with something in what you're doing now. I don't know whatever it is, but you seem to be making doing well.
Thank you very much.
I hope you carry on.
Thank you.
I hope it carries on. It's very difficult now for young people because there is so much more going on than when I was a youngster. I mean, there's so much more power of things, of whatever's going on, To do the right thing is much more difficult. It's much more money orientated now than it ever used to be when I was younger. Money wasn't a real. I just didn't think of it so much. I mean, I think the thing that you like inflation. I never knew what inflation was when I was a youngster. I never even heard of it.
Yeah.
It didn't work out that way, and I think I've been reasonably fortunate in life. I had a nice family, and I had nice, my own family, my mum and dad, and I have brothers and sisters, and then my own family. I've been very lucky, very fortunate. And I'm going to have to go.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
It's all right.